Well, hell, Robert, Robert, tell us about Robert.
Well, my friends call me Bob, so we're on the wrong sheet right here. So,
No,
you can call me Bob.
That's good. Well,
but people, it's Robert Dubac, but that's because I don't know the people who come to the shows. So if someone says, "Hey, Robert," I know I don't know them, but if they say Bob, I go, "Okay, this must be a friend of mine."
how quickly does it take to become, that Bob short?
It took 5 seconds here.
You're welcome.
For us.
Yeah, it was good.
So,
it was good. No, tell us a little bit about why the hell you're back here at McDavid.
Well, I think it's because the shows are good and they're funny. And Fort Worth is, it's the friendliest town in Texas. It's been, I like coming here. This is great. Bass Hall's terrific. The platitudes are just going to stream out of my mouth at this point. So
I'm kind of
because
curious.
I want to come back to McDavid. I want to come back to Fort Worth. So
Well, it seems to fit you. It's it's an intimate setting, but it's also it's a fun kind of rowdy. With Sundance now kind of becoming a blossoming area, this is just getting more and more fun every time you come back.
And the idea is to try to get people to discover it more. There was one problem always having theater, no matter if it's Fort Worth or Dallas or Minneapolis, is that you always have just these theater people that go to it. And I try to do these shows that kind of bridge that and the regular common folk. So if we can corral, maybe we should get some lassos and rope up some people in Sundance Square and bring them on in. But
we can try that afterwards.
Sure. Okay.
When it's still light out, we can catch them.
No, let's do it when it's dark.
So
there's not enough problems going on. We can stir up a few more, I think.
I'm kind of curious, for those that have seen your show, how is
first show?
The first show, yeah.
Which is The Male Intellect, an oxymoron, right?
Tell them how much different this one will be and what they can expect.
Well, it's completely different as far as content and what the show's about, but the execution is almost exactly the same. Because what I do is, in these type of shows, it's like this hybrid between theater and stand-up comedy. And what's happened with stand-up comedy is it's all kind of the same, and you're fighting liquor and servers and hecklers, and you can't really get a through line through on an extensive show. And then people who come to the theater, a lot of them were weaned on stand-up comedy, so they saw the comedy clubs 10, 20 years ago. They saw the comedians in there, and they like that kind of engagement where you break the fourth wall and talk to them. So the shows that I do is this combination between the two. So it's I do a lot of character work too. I guess it's kind of, if you were to combine Mark Twain and Lily Tomlin together, that's kind of what you have. So I become all these characters that are funny, that try to solve a bigger problem, which the main character, me, has to go through. And in The Male Intellect, I try to figure out what women want. And I actually, fortunate enough, I do, all while drinking a beer. And that'll come handy in Texas too. And then in the Book of Moron, I've lost my memory, and I'm trying to figure out who I am, what I believe in. It's a little more existential, but I have these voices that guide me out of my coma into self-realization.
So is each show cathartic in a sense then for you?
Yeah, I think so. It's cathartic for the audience, really. Because when you do these shows, it's, the thing that about a lot of solo shows that you see or hear about, usually when they're done by famous people, they tell about their life story. Which is interesting because they're famous. But you or me, to tell our life story, nobody, they don't give a damn. So, you have to kind of make it feel like it's their story. And so that's how it's written. It's written about, the first show is about trying to figure out what women want. Every man and woman is trying to figure out their relationships. So they project that onto you. And the second show, trying to figure out, who you are, what your purpose is in life, and, whether you're meaningful or not. Everybody goes through that. Maybe not in their 20s, but when they get a little older, they do.
Why is it that then these subjects continue through our sex, politics, just life in general? Why are these so
prevalent?
Easy? Yeah.
It's just part of the zeitgeist, I think. It's, we have this dichotomy. In the new show, there's this idea that's presented, which has always been kind of a paradigm in our lives, that with regards to intelligence, if you can hold on to two opposing thoughts simultaneously, you're able to exercise, more critical thought and more of a being present, more of an idea. Because there's no black and white, even though we like to, whether you believe in the Bible or the Constitution or whatever these things are that we write down in laws, we know they're never going to be completely true. So you have to have some sort of moral compass to go on either side. And if you don't embrace both, the positive and the negative, then you have what we have now in politics. You've got just one side who says they're right, or another side that says they're right, or just this kind of, and I think that's just this confusion that everybody has. It's like, it's hard to hold on to two opposing thoughts, but it means that you're a little more evolved. Now, when you don't, then we have chaos in the streets, because you're never going to, unless you want to be complete dictatorship or fascism, you can't control a populace to have them thinking. And I know part of it's, well, then kick them out, right? It's
a lot of people to kick out.
There are a lot of people to kick out, and then there's even the people who say kick them out are the people that you want to kick out. So, it can't be solved.
Is it tough then
That really made no, but that really didn't answer your question.
No,
I know, and that's the thing is, the shows start out deep, but they're really funny when you come watch them. So, I mean, the problem is you have to start out with something deep, and then you start stripping that away and finding out where the humor is and finding out what's funny about it. Otherwise, you're just telling pot jokes on a comedy club stage,
So is it fun then to have the political scene be so chaotic?
It is, but unless you had a television show like, The Daily Show or Full Frontal, or even when Colbert goes in and out, or Jon Stewart makes an appearance, when you have TV, you can get into the current stuff. You can do the jokes about Trump. You can do the jokes about, the whole Republican convention and leading up to that. But all that stuff is gone, in a week or a day. He tweets one thing, you make a joke about it. Well, then he tweets some other moronic thing, and you got to make a joke about that. And it's just, unless you're doing a brand new television show every night, there's no way to keep it fresh. So instead of going after individuals, I go after more like ideologies, and then show how they're both friendly and not friendly.
So is the delivery in Minneapolis different than the delivery here in Fort Worth?
Well, the joke is you just talk slower here, right? But no, it's not.
It's the best but response, yeah. So then for you, what do you get most out of the different audiences? Because obviously audiences are changing for you.
Well, they are, but it's my job is to try to get everybody to think together. Mm-hmm. And that's all laughter is it's having one emotion all simultaneously at the same time. Now, that's the difference between drama. You can have people, you can make them sad, and you can make them pensive and thoughtful and caring and empathetic in a drama. But you're never really quite sure if they're empathetic or they're just taking a nap in the front row. So when you have to make them laugh, then you realize, okay, it's hitting and it's working.
So when you kind of take a step back even further than the last show,
mm-hmm.
when you got recognition for like the Ovation Awards and
yep.
that boosted you to another level in many sense.
I don't agree with that type of stuff. I mean, the awards are given after you've done something.
Mm.
So you're just as good when you did it before the award. The award is just this kind of bogus way of all of us patting ourselves on the back. I mean, and obviously, if you're a great PR master like the Orange Man of the political season, then you take that stuff and you use it. But now you're saying, okay, we're going to take image is more than substance.
Mm.
And that's what everybody's frustrated about, because everybody wants substance. And when they're given image and it's paper thin, or it's a mile wide and inch deep, they get frustrated. Mm. So the shows are, an inch wide and a mile deep. It's the other way around. I mean, this is stuff you can keep. You can come back and see the shows 2 and 3 times and still get more and glean more out of them. But it's getting an award, or even if you get Oscars, you get Grammys. I mean, I think most people will say, "Wait a minute, I was already this good.
You were doing it.
I was doing it." So somebody, it's so you can't. I think the problem that we fall into, and look, this is from being older. When I was younger, I would go, hey, look what I won. Look at me. But when you get these kind of accolades, you realize they're just validating what you did. But you can't have such low self-esteem that you should be able to validate yourself, you know. And that takes a lot of discipline. Now, look, we can discuss this philosophy for, until the stage melts away. But, you have people who constantly need the hit. So all the awards or all the accolades. I mean, that's all Facebook is. That's all social interaction is. I'm tweeting or texting or posting to maybe 50 or 100 people that are seeing me, and it feels like the entire world's looking at me. Or we multiply that times 1,000 or 10,000, whether you're at the Kardashian level or the Taylor Swift level, but it still is meaningless. I mean, and then that frustration of, geez, I got nothing to, hold on to, is what's driving everybody nutty.
And moronic.
Yeah, and that's why we have the Book of Moron, so we can understand how to fight this and how to overcome it.
Wow. So I've got to know then, in seeing the moronic state kind of slightly get worse and worse, how do you answer that question year after year or show after show, if you will? Well,
it's interesting. It's when I first wrote the title of the show, The Book of Moron, it was before the Book of Mormon was on Broadway. And when it was called The Book of Moron, it was very offensive to the Mormon religion. And it has nothing to do with religion. It's just a funny title. So I had to wait. I called the show something else while I was developing and workshopping it. So I had to kind of wait for two things. What you're saying, you had to wait for there to be more stupidity. And you also had to wait to be the more recognizable, acceptance to the stupidity. So you've got both ends playing at the same time. We are getting dumber and smarter at the same time.
That's a crazy.
It is, but you got to hold on to two opposing thoughts simultaneously.
Boom.
Yeah, it's a paradox. Look, it's like in the male intellect, an oxymoron. That's basically a paradox. It's a guy who's got to think with the right side of his brain and the left side of his brain, his feminine side, his masculine side. Oxymorons are paradoxes. So, and then in the Book of Moron, the paradoxes are, how do you think inside the box and outside the box at the same time? I'll teach you, but you have to come to the show.
I have to come to the show.
Yeah, you have to come to the show.
So how do you amp up per show? Like, you have a show tonight.
Red Bull.
Explain.
Red Bull.
What do you drink other than Red Bull?
More Red Bull.
Is it really just Red Bull?
No, it's hardly even that. No. Those days are gone. Those, you're thinking now of Mad Men, and Don Draper. Oh, let's get juiced up and creative something. Yeah. No, those, it's. Granted, there's things that are fun when you're first starting out and you get a little loosed up, but you got to be. In my instance, I had to be real careful to where you're not. The discipline doesn't. You don't forget about the discipline. I see that a lot with everybody in the business now. There's no discipline. This is a great job. You get to go up on, whether you're a comedian or something, you get to go up on stage for 15 minutes, an hour, and that's all you work in a day. That's a pretty lazy way of looking at life. Now, if you were to sit and write for 8 or 9 hours before you go and do that, okay, then you're putting in a full day. But, a lot of times people get, especially with comics or certain musicians, they get a certain catalog of jokes or songs, and that's it. Then they go, okay, I can drink and blow my brains out with all kinds of psilocybin. So,
when did you find your discipline? When did you know it clicked?
Probably not until late 30s, early 40s. It's probably right about the time I got married.
Was it a moment? Did you know it, or did it just kind of come naturally?
No, there was something that was kind of gnawing at me, and I think in my case, and maybe with the case of society, is that we're constantly being what's the words for it? We're being bombarded with this idea that we can stay young, now, not only, well, obviously we're living longer, but I mean in an emotional context. So you have a lot of adolescents that are in adult bodies. It's in our politicians now. It's in our entertainers. It's, I see it in comedians all the time. You have these 40 and 50-year-old boys and 30 and 40-year-old girls that are, thinking that they can have this cavalier attitude without understanding that it affects the rest of the population. And if you just want to look at it now, you got a guy like Trump who has a conversations of a fifth grader. I mean, when you have a fifth to a ninth grade individual talking, it's not any different from the emotional incapacity that Donald Trump has. But he knows that that's what we've been raised on. We've been stuck not growing up for 40 years now, and this is the end result. So I just started realizing this isn't funny at all, is it? What we're talking
It's serious
about?
and it's scary. That's what you get from a Robert show.
I know, but but the
brings it
shows are
seriously.
actually funny. So it's I don't if you've been watching so long and you're here still listening now, it'll get funny. But it's this idea that we don't have any. Your generation has no mentors of guys other than my generation had guys like Jack Nicholson. It's a complete bonehead. A great talented guy, a sweet guy, but his image and his acting stardom was based on this Lothario that never grew up. And that's what we emulate. Kanye West is a child, an emotionally stunted child. So, and it's just, we get this idea where we're so enraptured with our own image. Nobody's working on the substance. And I don't know, I was the same way, but it just hit me in my late 30s. I go, it's time to wake up.
You brought up, though, that it was marriage, though.
Well, I was always thought of myself as this confirmed bachelor who was never going to get married. And then when I met my wife, I go, there's more to life.
So why does a Kanye meet a girl in Kim Kardashian and they don't find that?
Because those are two little children playing in a sandbox of piles of money. How can you? I wouldn't grow up. I could tell you to do whatever I wanted to do right now and have as much money, enough money to get up higher than the level of the lens of this camera. Good Lord, I'd never grow up. That's what's happened with Trump. Trump inherited $500 million. He barely has that now. So even if he didn't do anything his whole life, he still would have the same amount of money he had. So he's gone through failures and successes. Your personalities that, like the Kardashians and the Kanyes that come out of nowhere. And then it's the emperor with no clothes, too, because we're going to say whatever you do is artistic. It's not. Unless you have the discipline and the technique so you can say, well, that's kind of, lipstick on a pig. So
I've got to ask then, who were your mentors? Who were the people that you did look up to?
Well, most recently, but he's passed away now, is Gary Shanley and I were real good friends. And he was always someone who guided that out of everybody, all of his friends. I had people that aren't in show business. But it's, I would look at what some entertainers accomplished and I would ignore their personal life and just try to see what they, because there's all kinds of things that drive you. You can have a huge dysfunction, going on in your head. Look at poor Philip Seymour Hoffman, carrying that for years. Robin Williams was a good friend. So it's just, I don't, it's a shame that people can't deal with reality anymore. And it's not just the celebrities, it's everybody out there who's going through some sort of.
So it must be nice, though, to give us that moment of kind of stepping out. You're allowing us a way to kind of sit back and make fun of all of it.
Yeah, you do that. I get, everybody makes fun of it, and they can make fun of themselves, and they can make fun of, the person sitting next to them, and vice versa. It goes back and forth. So I'm not going to make fun of you. Well, you're going to make fun of me, and vice versa. And it is, I think when you get people to kind of look at something, escape what's going on in there, but still project what they know onto what's going on stage, yeah, it can be satisfying. Look, with the new show, there's always, maybe 1 or 2% that don't get it and get a little pissy. So
that must be fun though too.
Well, it is, but it's not. This isn't like a comedy club where you have hecklers, and and it's not. And I don't want to really encourage that because that's kind of the easiest way to to get a laugh. But it's constructed in a way that unless you really have your ideals shut down and you're not going to entertain another point of view, then watch cartoons, I guess. I mean, because it's you got to or do whatever the one thing is that makes you happy. Watch one news outlet. Watch one, listen to one radio personality. But that's very few and far between. So,
well, I guess this is going to come out right before the show starts.
Yeah.
What would you want to say to the lovely Fort Worth folks that'll be here?
Well, it's if you think, you'll laugh. If you're not thinking, you'll still laugh. You just won't know why. It's fun. It's not poking fun at anybody. It's just trying to understand where we're at and trying to find the difference between truth and illusion. There's we're image versus substance. Do I believe it's butter or do I can't believe it's not butter? Is it a blank stare or is it Botox? There's these things you just don't know, and these are the obvious things we go through that make us laugh.
So to find out if it is butter or if it's not butter, definitely come out and check Bob out.
If it's the truth or if it's illusion. You got 3 levels of truth. Well, 4. There's the illusion of truth, there's the truth, there's the whole truth, and there's nothing but the truth. And I explain all of them in the show. What happens is there's this big door, which is the door of truth. And you have to go through, in order to wake up, you have to go through the door of truth. Well, every time you go through, it's only one level. And you got to go through again, and you got to through again. Just like any kind of spirituality or any kind of religion that you believe in, you make these planes of realization and self-realization. It's just doing it without saying, well, this is what a Muslim believes, or this is what a Christian believes, or this is what the I Ching means. It's broad, and so it doesn't divide people up in their little, pockets of hate.
I like that, pockets of hate. Yeah,
well,
get rid of those.
There's pockets of love out there too, but hopefully you get them so that they. It's a layer cake of hate and love. Okay, you just want to make sure you're taking a bite out of the love, because the hate leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
I think that's a perfect way to end it.
Okay,
I love that.
Well,
Bob, thank you so much.
You bet.